All right, hey everyone, Mark here. Hold on a second. Let me just move this microphone a little closer. Mark P. Markets here. Thanks for joining me for another Greenbridge Investing market analysis. I'm not on TradingView today, so I can spend more time answering your questions. That's what that means. All right, so let's get this thing started here. If you're new to my channel and my type of analysis, if you have a market, an altcoin or a stock you'd like to see, please share it in the channel now. And once I get through my portion of the analysis, I will answer your questions. So please be patient. Also, if you have an altcoin that you'd like to see, please make sure to put USD or USDT after the symbol. Otherwise, I will analyze the wrong symbol. I realized that in my previous stream. I spent like 30 minutes on some stupid stock and they wanted to see the coin. Okay, because I don't read the chat right away. So that's why you need to put it right the first time before, whatever. Okay, anyway, so with all that, let's get started here. All right, hold on. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Also, if you want to share what country or what city you're from in the chat, that's always just a fun fact. I'm streaming from the greater New York City area, also known as Northern New Jersey, in case you're wondering where my accent is from. All right, so let's first here, I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, and then I'm going to talk about the stock market like usual, and then we're going to touch on the gold and the dollar. As you know, we had the FOMC meeting, press conference and outcome yesterday, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about these markets within that context. Also, tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time is non-farm payrolls. So that is usually the most important scheduled economic event that we must deal with every month. It's the first Friday, usually, of every month. And that can change things if there are any surprises. So it's not a good idea to try to second guess or anticipate that number, because unless you have inside information, it's useless to try to do that. So what you do is you wait for it to come out and see how it changes things, if it changes anything. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what the report is. What matters is how the market perceives it. So my mindset with that is let the market figure it out. Okay, so how this information is helpful to us going into such a report is perhaps you need to make some adjustments to existing positions. Maybe you have a long or a short in a forex pair or something like that. Maybe you need to adjust your risk there because NFP can, work with you or against you, and there's no way to know. Again, this game, if you want to be in this game in the long run, you must have a defensive mindset. And you must always be thinking in terms of risk first. Now, I just want to say hi to a few people. I just see you in the chat here. Elizabeth, hey, thanks for stopping by. And yeah, David from Spain. You guys mentioned something about rants. Yeah, don't get me started. Don't get me started. I'll rant for 3 hours. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin. All right, let me just say hi to a few more people. Elizabeth, we got Thomas. Hey, Thomas. All right, thanks for joining. Kai, Bart. Hey, good to see you all. Hussein, Jose, HS, David. All right, cool. Got the whole crew here. Andre. Hey, you got Travel. I don't see Schwartz yet, but he's probably on like one of those international man of mystery missions. All right, anyway, let's talk about Bitcoin. Now, as we can see here, Bitcoin has been stuck, right? And it can be frustrating when you're trying to deal with something like this, when it keeps giving buy signals and then does not follow through. So look at this right here, okay? You see that pin bar, bullish pin bar, took out the high, green candle, buy signal. But what have I been talking about in this area? What is this blue rectangle? I don't put it here just to be cool or try to make my chart look more interesting like a lot of these fake gurus do. This represents a resistance area, a pretty significant one. And when we get buy signals going into the area, that to me is a problem because we're buying into resistance. Even though we are getting buy signals, I mean, look over here, right? Green candle, and it got rejected. Green candle, rejected again. Resistance is obviously asserting itself. Now, if this current candle closes like this, and we take out the low, or we take out the low of this pin bar, which is 59.5 right there, that will be a new sell signal off of a resistance. So that's not an area that I really want to buy. All right. Now, I've been talking about like some aggressive longs. If you read my TradingView article that I wrote a few days ago, it's an aggressive long if you're taking longs here. Should you avoid aggressive longs? No, it's up to you on how aggressive or conservative you want to be. Just realize that aggressive means its chances of working out are probably less. And why is that? Well, we're buying into resistance. Okay? You're not buying a support level. If you want a higher probability outcome, wait for a support level, as Jerry Seinfeld would say. So the support right now is around this 59K area. As you can see, it bounced off of there once. That would make for a nice double bottom consolidation. I would be much more comfortable with a buy signal there than buying into this resistance area. Now, 59K is not exactly the best support, but it is a support in a broader bullish trend. So I'm willing to take a chance there if price can confirm, right? Now, Travel put an interesting question in our free chat, and this gives me an opportunity here to answer that question. And his question was, do I think that there is a bearish pattern? I think he mentioned like what do you call it? A pennant formation or something like that forming here. And basically, what do I think of that? Well, here's the thing. Those type of chart patterns, whether it's a pennant, a head and shoulders, you know, those type of things, classical chart patterns, they can be very confusing in these type of situations. What we have here is a consolidation. So in these situations, what carries more weight than some random pattern is the broader structure. So until a support is taken out, we have no supports taken out, none. So I can't be bearish on this, okay? There's nothing bearish about this. All we're doing is consolidating. So in these situations, it's very common to be confused by a pattern that may be showing some sort of bearish, some sort of bearish thing, but it carries no weight, okay? What carries more weight is the broader structure, and until that is compromised, meaning we need to take out a support, there's nothing bearish about this. So if you're on a day trade time frame, then you can work with something like that because you're working on a smaller magnitude. But if you're on a swing trade time frame, there's nothing bearish about this, okay? Not yet. That's why, you should be looking for, in a broader bullish environment or structure, clearly we have a higher low here. I would look for that to be a range low to hold for a long. But people that are stuck on small time frames are going to be calling this a short, okay? And it's not a short, not yet. We wouldn't short Bitcoin to begin with, but this is not what a short looks like. All right, look at this. Higher low off of 40K, higher high. All right, so higher low, we haven't made the higher high yet, but we're consolidating. So that brings me to another point. I saw a video, because I watch, quite a few of these fake YouTube gurus, just to see how they're fooling people. And I watched a guy who made an interesting argument about Bitcoin seasonality. And he talked about that there was a 70% chance, his argument was that there was a 70% chance that Bitcoin is going to go to 85K or possibly 95K over the next 3 to 6 months. Okay, that was basically his argument. And I looked at, how he backed up his argument, and it was flawed, to say the least. And the reason why it was flawed was because he was comparing information, basically today's information. He was comparing that going back like maybe 8 years or something like that. And there's a big problem doing something like that, because anything before 2018, if any of you were involved in these markets at that time, anything before 2018 was pure retail, okay? No institutions were involved before 2018. So it was all just basically gambling and a lot of euphoria. You cannot use that price information if you're trying to get a sense of seasonality. In my opinion, seasonality is more of it's basically a result of institutional money flow. And now, today, we have institutions. We have banks, we have hedge funds, we have governments, and everyone's buying into Bitcoin, okay? Companies have Bitcoin on their balance sheet and all this other nonsense. So if that's the case, okay, so maybe we are eventually getting into some sort of seasonal pattern like the stock market. but it's too early to say, and you can't look at data that way. You can't see, when you're looking at a chart and pure just chart information by itself, and you look back at over like a 10-year period or something like that, the chart doesn't tell you the variables or the factors that were shaping the markets at that time. All you see is the result of those variables, and you see a price pattern of some kind, right? So the variables that were shaping markets at that time are not the same variables of today. So it's like comparing apples to oranges. Anyway, so that's my rant on that. So point with Bitcoin, look for longs at the support level. Okay, and that's what we'll be doing. And if that level breaks, this, what is this here, 59, whatever, then the next support is 51 area. It's that simple. So you're either going to wait, if you're patient, you're just going to wait for this here, okay, or you're going to wait for this area here. That's it. If you don't have the patience, then you're not going to win anyway, because if you're reacting to what you see now, and you're always reacting to what people put in front of you, you can't win in this game. You need to be ahead. You need to separate yourself from the crowd. You have to be very cognizant of what you're consuming. Because, I mean, I watch these videos and the stuff that they're putting out, they'll say stuff like, yeah, I can do this. Sure, it's risky. Sure, you can lose money, but look what it can do. And they convey this message. It's like subconscious. They convey this message that, hey, this is like an exciting and a sure thing almost. I mean, that's the tone of their voice. That can lure someone who doesn't know what they're doing, and they really don't have any money to risk, but they go into this because someone said, this altcoin, the top 5 altcoins that can 1,000x in the next month, get in now. Someone who doesn't know any better will believe this nonsense and get caught. Okay, anyway, so that's why it's important to have your levels planned out in advance. Wait for price to get there, and then wait for some sort of confirmation. Also, it's important to have your time horizons organized. Are you looking to invest, or are you looking to swing trade? You must know the difference, because managing risk on each magnitude or each time frame is not going to be the same. Okay, anyway, so that's Bitcoin. Let me move on. I'll talk about this for 3 hours. You got me in rant mode. You see that? All right, let's talk about the stock market. Speaking of rant mode, look at the NASDAQ. Look at the NASDAQ. This is ridiculous, okay? It looks like an altcoin. Look at this. It looks like SHIB. Well, the way SHIB used to look. Anyway, how is SHIB doing? Let me just take a look real quick. What's SHIB doing right now? Hold on, let's see. Oh, look at that. Look at, oh boy, am I going to comment on this? Okay, anyway, back to the stock market. So the NASDAQ. Now, we had the FOMC meeting yesterday, okay? Chairman Powell came out. I don't pay an ounce of attention to one word the guy says. I don't care what he says. All I'm interested in is how the market perceives what he says. So obviously, the market likes it. I mean, what is this thing up today? 200 points, okay, just over 200 points. These are all new all-time highs. You're going to see it all over the news, right? Stock market, all-time highs, we're having a party, Santa rally, blah, blah, blah. I talked about the Santa rally very early. Do you remember? Go back to my streams from a couple of weeks ago. I was talking about it since the higher low. This is it. This is it, okay? Now, so a couple of things to say about this. For one, do not short this thing too early. It's very tempting. How much higher can this thing go? It's a bad idea. I've made that mistake numerous times. There's no reason to short this. People in recent weeks have asked me about shorts, and I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'll still say it. You don't short something that looks like this, because you're working against the momentum, and that's a very hard thing to work against. I mean, chances are you're going to get stopped out. If you're thinking on a day trade time frame, okay, fine, you can play that game. If you're thinking on a larger time frame, like, oh yeah, I'm going to short the top of the market and this thing's going to pull back 1,000 points, well, you're asking for a lot of trouble. So the point is, these are one of those situations where if you were not willing to take the risk at these lows, at that pullback, and I talked about it at the time, if you were not willing to take the risk in your stocks or whatever it is that you were getting into in this area here, this is certainly not the time to be taking the risk. This is a time to be letting profits run if you have positions, okay, and locking in something along the way. This is beautiful. If you were long, if you had a coin or something that looked like this, and you were long from a good price, and you asked me, what should I do? I would say, lock some profit in and let it ride until it gives you a reason to exit the rest. Or if you want to let the market just take you out, put a trailing stop and trail it each day, and eventually you will get tapped out at some point. Okay? That's the way to deal with something like this. Putting on more risk now is nuts because you don't know where that top is going to develop. All right? So don't be misled. Don't be distracted by all the hype and all the euphoria and all the optimism that's going to come as a result of this type of move. Yeah, it's great. It's great for people who have Apple. It's great for people who own these market stocks. But it would be unwise to just think that this thing's going to keep going vertical like this, right? So don't go against it. Just take advantage of it. Capitalize on the herd mentality while it's there. People are willing to take it off your hands. Give it to them. But let some ride at the same time. It's a win-win. If you have the greed mindset, which we all start out with, because that's why we're all here to make money. So it's only natural to come into this with the greed mindset. You're going to try to top tick this. You're going to say, I'm going to hold this thing until the top. But we don't know where the top is, okay? So that's basically the same as gambling. You can't be sad or mad at yourself if you locked in some profit, 200 points ago, and you say, oh, I could have had so much more money if I just held it. There was no reason to get out. No, you are wise for locking something in because there will be many times where it goes that way. Everyone piles in, you unload some and reduce risk, right? And then the thing gives it all back. And you will be happy that you took some out. It's just a habit. It's a good habit to be in. Anyway, so that's the NASDAQ. There's not much we can do here, right? I mean, can this thing keep going? I believe that moves like this are not sustainable, but the market's going to have to show some sort of change. There's just nothing there. And obviously, we're just seeing some more reactions to whatever, company news, whatever, right? All right, S&P, same deal, okay? S&P, higher highs, same story. Can't do anything there. Don't short these markets. All right, let's take a look at the dollar index real quick, right, before I get into gold. Look at the dollar. What have I been saying about the dollar? What have I been saying? I've been saying in the chat room, dollar still strong. Dollar still strong. Higher lows, higher highs. We had the higher low put in over here. And look, it's going for the higher high. So I don't know where the stock market thinks it's going, but if this thing breaks out, it will put pressure, okay? Right now, again, holiday mode, euphoria, optimism, all that stuff, they ignore things like this. But if this thing continues and it breaks out, well, that means rising rates. That means the smart money is pricing in rising rates, interest rates. And that will start to cut into company reports, company profits, especially companies that rely on borrowing money. And so you won't see those results now, but when their next quarter reports come out and this thing is a lot higher, you're going to start to see that. And that's when you're going to see these companies start to put out negative reports or less than expected reports, and then you're going to see the stock market start to feel it, right? But right now, you're not going to see that. So this is something to keep in mind. And this is important. Why? For investing. Because do you want to be buying stocks or investing in stocks for the long term at all-time highs while the dollar is going higher? It's not a good idea. All right. So anyway, I see a question about that, and I'm going to definitely answer that question. But this is the dollar. Something to keep in mind. Also, if you're a forex trader, the dollar is likely to break out, which means you should be thinking short on the euro. You should be thinking short on the pound. Okay, like the euro. Look at the euro. Do you think this is going higher? Okay, it's been noisy, but this is going to be the inverse of the dollar. Very important. Now let's take a look at gold real quick, okay? Because gold is one of these logical markets. Now look at this. I call it logical market because it usually people try to apply logic to something like this. Well, if we have inflation, gold should go to 3,000. Right. Well, this is very interesting that gold has this strong candle today and higher low in the face of a strong dollar. What is up with that? That's strange because that's not how the relationship is supposed to go. Now, I don't sit there and question why. I don't care why. All I know is that there is a change. Now, is gold going to continue higher and break out? Because there is a higher low. If the dollar continues higher, theoretically, this thing really should not break out. So how does that help us? Well, don't get fooled by one green candle. Yes, there's a bullish structure here, higher lows, right? But the general structure over the previous 6 months or whatever is a range. This is a consolidation. So buying into this on the sign of a strengthening dollar is a very risky thing to do in terms of just probability and intermarket relationships. Okay, you need to understand that. Sure, you know, a chart is a chart, and this reflects certain information, but when it comes to something like gold or something that is affected by another market, like significantly affected, you need to consider that other market, in this case the dollar. Okay, and that brings me to one more, and then I'm going to go to your questions. This is oil, because I was looking at oil earlier today. Look at oil. Look at this. Now, energy is a significant component of the S&P, and this thing's getting hammered. What is this thing? 78.96. Now, we haven't seen a pullback like this in oil for quite some time. That's interesting. So this is coming into support area here, right? See that right there? What price is that? That's around, let's see, 70, I guess that would be 78.62. What's the low over here? 74.95. So about that 75 area, right? You see oil pulling back into there. That's a good area to be watching for swing trades on the long side. This is a good example of something that, you know, people may be getting bearish on oil. Oh, oil is pulling back. Short oil. No, you're shorting into a support area. You should be looking for longs in something like oil. What a beautiful pullback. There's no confirmation here, but I'll tell you, next long signal wouldn't be a bad idea in something like oil. But what's strange to me is with oil pulling back, the S&P is not even thinking about pulling back, right? So that's interesting. Anyway, okay, so those are the markets I wanted to cover. I hope you got something out of that. I cover these broader markets because they can affect your trades, whether it's an altcoin, whether it's a stock, or even a forex pair, right? So anyway, let's get to your questions now. Let's see how I've been doing. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. I didn't over rant yet. All right, so Elizabeth, Ethereum, sure, took a little off the top at 4,600. Should sound good to wait for 5K? Okay, good question. Let's go to Ethereum. So Ethereum, is this? Okay, so here's Ethereum on Coinbase. So here's the thing. Took off some at 4,600. Nice trade. All right, took some off. I remember you asking me about this thing around 4,300, whatever. Very nice. So should you hold until 5,000? Well, based on the structure here, yeah, we have this bearish candle that's developed, right? Off of these highs. You have what this previous candle was like, that little doji candle. So at this point, if you've locked in some profit and you've reduced risk, well, this is not a bearish trend or anything, and it hasn't taken out any supports yet. So one thing you could do, to answer your question, should you wait for 5K? If you're willing to give some money back, yeah. I mean, you're going with the trend here, and it can touch 5K. It's possible. Now, what you have to watch out for, though, is if price takes out this 41 low, right? That 4100 area low, that should not be taken out if this structure is going to stay intact. Also, this level here, 38, whatever, what is that? They're basically 38.95. That area right there should not get taken out if this trend is going to stay intact. So one thing you might want to do, just a suggestion, is maybe you want to put a trailing stop for whatever you're in, and you know, if it goes to your trailing stop, you're out, and you're locking in a profit anyway. So you're going to give some profit back, but the trade-off is you're giving something back to give this thing a chance to go further. I mean, that's all best practice type of stuff. Those are good behaviors. Okay, so those would be like, I think the best choices for something like that. Even though you have this red candle here, doesn't really change anything. Okay, like Bitcoin, it doesn't really change anything. When it starts breaking supports, that's when it's changing. All right, and that would probably be a good time to perhaps get out of most of your position if it's a swing trade. And also another factor to consider is how much were you risking in the trade. If you were risking, let's say, 1% of your account, and your trade is up, you know, 3 to 1 on that based on that risk, you should certainly be out of a good portion of your position, because those are not easy to come by, right? When it does something like that, you want to get in the habit of taking something off the table when you have such a favorable reward risk. And then from there, you want to raise stops by raising your stops manually. You're at least giving the market an opportunity to pay you more if it wants to. All right, just keep in mind, when you get stopped out, you're going to get a not so great price. Okay, just keep that in mind, because your stop is going to be near a low, not a high. Anyway, thanks for your question. Okay, let's see. Okay, no problem. So that's ETH, yeah? And a rant. I got plenty more rants. All right, Thomas from Wood River. Okay, hey, welcome, Thomas. I'm glad you find my talks interesting and valuable. That's good to hear. It's always encouraging. Could you check out AMP? Sure, AMP. Now, what is AMP? Is that an altcoin? Let's see, or is that a stock? I'm guessing it's an altcoin. I'm going to check the chat real quick. Just correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I'm guessing. Just make sure if you're putting an altcoin, just please make sure to put USD after it. Otherwise, I'll talk about the wrong symbol for hours. All right. So here's AMP, the altcoin, and interesting move, right? So when you see something like this again, when they go vertical, that's herd mentality. And great for the people that bought it off those lows. Not good for the people that just bought it. Now, let's go back here, okay, and let's look at some levels. So if you notice, where is AMP giving it back? Look at this. It's an old resistance area, right? Basically 0829, that area right there, if you notice, that's where you're seeing the resistance and you're seeing the long tails develop. Today's candle is, wow, that's an interesting looking candle. So it's a bearish inside bar off of this resistance. So the way to treat something like this, the way to interpret it is if it takes out the low of today's candle, that's a new sell signal. But with these kind of tails right behind you here, that's not good. I mean, you should not be seeing that. Now, granted, the next candle may turn green. You may have a green inside bar, and it may try to continue higher. You do have a higher low in this area here of 4.044, whatever, 4 cents, just 4.5 cents. But if you're looking for a new position in something like this, the more effective thing to do would be to wait for a support. And this is your support right here. That area right there. That's your support. So if it can get back there, that's around 5 cent area, all right, just the low fives. If it can get back in that area, that would be a good place to give some more a try if you're interested in this thing. But keep in mind, when they're going like vertical like this and then giving it back, there's really no trend here, okay? There's no clear-cut trend. There are so many coins that have like a clear trend and a nice trend structure. This looks like a consolidation to me, right? At least at this point, unless it can break out and really start doing something magical, this is more likely a consolidation. If that's the case, you're better off waiting for range lows anyway, okay, or a much lower price if you're interested in a new long. That's how I would treat something like this. I'm not a big fan of these type of coins. A lot of times they're just hyped and they're lottery tickets, okay? So anyway, thanks for asking. It's a good comparison, especially when you're looking at a coin like this compared to something that has a much better structure. All right, let's see what else I have here in terms of questions. So thanks for asking, Thomas. Hey, Kai, from Germany. Total 3. It's an altcoin basket. Okay, without Ethereum in it. See, total 3. What? I never even heard of that. Let's take a look. So so now look at this chart. Right, that's a bullish structure. It kind of looks similar to Bitcoin, the broader Bitcoin, sort of. Right, it looks like a combination of Bitcoin and Ethereum together. That's what it looks like to me. But he says there's no Ethereum in this. Okay, fine. So let's take a look at what's going on here as far as levels and structure. You have this breakout, okay? You have this breakout area situation right here. And it's made these, I guess these are all-time highs, I'm assuming? Yeah, all-time highs. So, and you're getting a red candle off of those highs. Kind of like the Ethereum behavior that we're seeing, even though there's no Ethereum in this. So, what do you do with something like this? Definitely not a good time to be buying. Nothing to do here except sell if you have some, right? Lock in profits. That's the only thing to do here. If the next candle takes out the low of this candle, you will have a sell signal in effect. So the next buy signal, the area that you'd be looking is this area here, the old resistance, right? Which should act as a support. It acts as a support over here. What, 876? This area right here. This is where you want to see. This is where you want to see the price stabilize and give you some sort of buy signal. That's a good place to try if you're interested in a long for something like this. Keep in mind, a lot of times, especially if the leaders get out of favor, because there's a lot of overly optimistic hype out there, right? So when I see too much of that, a lot of times what you'll get is you get the pullback, you get the next leg to try to go higher, okay, and then it fails. If you get that double top situation and then it's followed by a break of this support, that would probably be a good time to just step away and let these things cycle to their lows, right? Or cycle out and find their lower supports, because you're probably going to see that across the board. That's just the way these things work. When I see dozens of YouTube titles, okay, title after title saying you're going to get rich with these 5 altcoins, you're going to be a millionaire by next year. If you buy this altcoin, make sure you buy it now. When you see nonsense like that, and they're conveying this idea that you're going to be rich, that's a sign of a top. And if that's a secular top, meaning it's like a larger magnitude top, then you're probably going to see lower prices over the next few months, not higher prices, right? That's what you have to watch out for. There's no guarantee that that's how it will unfold, but it starts with the sentiment, right? The signs begin there. And if we start to see the follow through and the charts, meaning supports start getting taken out, that's a good time to step aside, okay, after this extreme hype. So, and let me just, on that note, let me just bring up SHIB, okay? Because look at this. Look at this nonsense. You know why I'm going to give you a rant on SHIB right now? Because I've seen so many videos. SHIB is going to make you a billionaire. SHIB is going to make you a millionaire. Buy as much SHIB as possible. Blah, blah, blah. SHIB is going to be up 10,000 million% by next week. Blah, blah, blah. Look at this. What happened to SHIB? What is it, -8% today? Oh, it's just a pullback. Don't worry. Buy more. That's what they will tell you in this. Just buy more SHIB. So here's the thing. All this optimism was here in this area right here. And there were a bunch of videos that I saw when it was here. So now people are stuck in this thing if you got lured into it thinking you were going to be a millionaire by next week. All right, I know no one here has done that, but a lot of people, obviously, they watch those videos because I see big numbers on those videos, and a lot of people are now caught in this thing. So here's the thing. As far as SHIB goes, that's what I mean about those videos. All right, I hope you're not being fooled by them because this is what you're looking to run into. And a lot of these altcoins that we're seeing right now that they're pushing the same way will cycle in a similar way. Now, speaking of SHIB, is this a bad thing to get into now? Well, first, you know it's a hype coin, right? You know it's a meme coin, so you know if you're playing this thing, it's really not a good idea for investment. It's probably a good idea for more of a shorter term type of trade idea. And you want to wait, if anything, you want to wait for a support. You have some support there. And what is this low here? 0.00043, whatever. So that's your here. I'll just put a line on that. These are your areas right there. If the current candle high is taken out over the next day, that would probably be too swift. But that's, if you get a candle that looks like this, right, that would be a buy signal, and your risk will be defined by this low if you want to play that game. Again, this is a pure hype game. I just have to point this out because a lot of coins are going to a similar situation, and this could be an opportunity to buy. Now, I'm not pushing SHIB by any means because I don't like the nonsense that's going on in coins like this, and I don't like how people are being just completely fooled into buying stuff like this. But, you know, watch out because Cardano is another one, right? Cardano's going to 50x. You know how many videos I saw? Cardano's going to 50x by next week. Okay, it hasn't 50x'd yet. So anyway, all right, that's my rant on that. I hope you found that helpful. Let's move on here. What other charts do you want me to look at? Let's take a look. So I went over total 3. Okay, all right, Bart. Okay, so Bart asks about the broad stock market. All right, Bart, I saw your question before, and I think that's a very good question. So let's go back to the NSX real quick, right? The Nasdaq, and Bart's question is an important one. Should we be buying now in batches, or should we wait for a pullback before the Santa rally? All right, now Santa rallies. This type of situation can be very irrational. So you bring up an interesting thing. How should you invest in something like this? Well, investing, as I've told you before, is less about the charts, it's less about the levels, and more about your size. So first things first, let's take a look at a weekly chart. This is a weekly NASDAQ chart, okay? I mean, look at this. So as an investor, this is like going to, the supermarket, and everything is priced higher because of the holiday, right? You have to buy ricotta cheese, and it's like, $2 more than it usually is. It's because they take advantage or whatever. They have a less supply, whatever. Okay, you get the idea. You're buying retail here. You're buying the highs. As an investor, why would you want to do that? So here's one way to think about it. If you have a total amount that you're looking to invest. All right, I bring up this example all the time. You have $10,000 to invest, and your normal batch or allotment is $1,000. So let's say each time you make a purchase, you're only going to buy $1,000 of something, which means you have 10 batches to buy. Now you can split up that 10 batches over a period of time. Okay, so once a month, let's say in the first of the month, you're going to buy your $1,000 worth. Now, here's where you can use a chart to help you. So you go to a weekly chart and you say, wow, these are ridiculous prices. Do I want to buy a full batch here of $1,000 when I'm getting such lousy prices? But I still want to be in. So instead of buying a full batch, maybe you buy a half a batch or a quarter of a batch. You're still going to average into it, but now you're weighting, your price is going to be, your average price is not going to be weighted at bad prices because you're buying less at these levels. And that's what you should be doing as an investor. Sure, you want to invest, go ahead, just buy less, right? If you're going to use the first of the month, okay, first of the month, I'm buying my batch and we're at ridiculous highs, so I'm going to buy half a batch. Now, this thing pulls back. Maybe the next couple of weeks, maybe it pulls back to over here or something, right? And you have some red candles in here, and it comes to the first of the month, and it's time to buy. Maybe you just buy a normal batch at that time, because now you're buying a pullback. If you get a deep pullback, which I highly doubt, right, until we start to see companies like Google and all those other, the FANG complex and all these big companies, when they start reporting that they're making less money, then we'll probably see a serious turn in these indices. But until then, it's stimulus. I mean, Powell is just printing money. We should call him Printing Money Powell, because they're just printing it, and that money is going to find its way into the stock market, right? So if you get a steep pullback, so let's say the first of the month comes and price is here, you're like, wow, looks pretty ugly. Instead of buying a regular batch, now you buy 2 batches. Right? Because now you're weighting your allocations at lower prices. And since you were having lighter weights at the higher prices, you have the money to do it. All right, does that make sense? Instead of having an equal batch and an average price, equally across the board, you can skew it based on the market location, right? So at highs, you underweight it, or you take smaller batches. At lows, you overweight it and you take larger batches. Right? And because you're doing this in batches to begin with, I like that word, batch, because that kind of makes it much clearer to understand. And once you tie up your $10,000 because you've allocated all of your batches, now that's it. You have your average price and you're in. You don't keep putting on more and more and more, because that's how you can get yourself into trouble. If the stock market really gets hammered, you want to at least maybe have some money on the side, or once you're all in, that's it, you're all in. And that will protect you in case there is a much larger than expected move against you, which can happen. It's rare, especially in stimulus mode here, because the Fed still, I don't know what they said about rate hikes, but clearly the market's not worried about them right now. But when the Fed actually starts raising interest rates, when they actually start doing that, we're going to see probably more of a consolidating type of market, and we're going to see lower prices. I wouldn't call it a bear market, but we'll probably see periods of prolonged consolidations and more type of bearish moves. But we're not going to see that right now. So I hope that answers your question about investing, because I think that's a smart way to do it, so that you're not overweighted or equally weighted at the top of the market, because this is the top of the market. Okay, look at the S&P 500. That's certainly not a low. It's certainly not a market bottom. So why would you want to be equally or overweight at the top? This is a place to be taking money off the table. So, and also, Bart, if you're like, you know what, I just don't like these levels at all. I'd rather wait for any kind of pullback before I begin my allocations. Then don't do anything. Because in this situation, really, the most effective thing to do, if you had inventory, would be to be selling your inventory, in my opinion. This is a great time to be taking profits off the table while people are there willing to take them off your hands. That's what you should be doing here. But if you don't have any, right, you don't have any inventory and you want to start getting some exposure, well, again, it's really more about your allocations and when you're going to put them on and how you want to weight them. So I hope that answers your question. I'm going to send you a bill now because I just gave you a whole lecture. I give you a whole lesson on how to invest. All right. So let me see what else I have. A good question, Bart. Hussein, okay, so OCGN, let's take a look. And let's go back to the daily chart, OCGN. And again, I appreciate everyone's patience and joining me here today. It's always nice to see everyone. All right. Look at this, hype stock. Look at the vertical nature of this, right? Herd mentality. Okay, fine, no problem. So what to do now? Well, in these type of situations, if this is hype, this is too early to take any longs. If you're interested in a long, it's still a little early because this momentum is sharp, okay? That's very sharp. So in these type of situations, first of all, it's a hype stock. So even if it stabilizes, it's probably not going to really resume any type of trend because there's really no trend here. Look at this. There's really not much of a trend. It's just consolidate, spike, and then go back to garbage. So if you're going to do anything with this, let it go back to garbage, meaning let it go back into this consolidation mode. Like as you can see here, it spends months doing this before anything comes along. So obviously, it's news driven, so you want to wait until it gets quiet and gets off of everyone's radar if you want to accumulate some. Because if this was a more active stock, if this was something like a market stock, I would say wait for the double bottom to develop or something like that. Wait for stability and then get involved. But in this situation, I would wait for more than that because this is hype. All right, so wait for it to get back to a level. Let it sit there for like a few weeks or something. Or you want to start buying some small shares in accumulation. Keep in mind, based on this pattern, it may take, a few months before you get another spike for whatever reason, right? Whatever the news is that spiked this thing. I don't like these type of plays if you can't rely on something like the S&P or the NASDAQ to help you time. Unless you know something about the industry and you know something about how the stock is releasing new news or products or whatever it is that they're doing, then at least you have a better chance of being in before the spike. We can't predict the spike, right? We don't know when we're going to get the type of news that's going to drive it. But once the news is out and it's over, that's it. I wouldn't expect any follow through here because when something is in a trend, it shouldn't pull back like this, right? It should give you like a tighter pullback, a much more stable pullback, not this. All right, anyway, and plus it's not a market stock. So thanks for asking about that. I hope that's helpful. Jose, all right, do you have any specific tool in your intraday, like RSI? Good question. And so I always say when I see people with a Spanish name or speak Spanish, I usually say mucho gusto, but I'm going to change that to ¿Cómo estás? Because mucho gusto, you only say that like one time, right? So ¿Cómo estás, Jose? All right, so to answer your question, no. I don't look what he said, RSI 14 over 60-30 and WMA 14, no. none of that. For intraday, I mean, you can use moving averages. They can be somewhat helpful if you know how to put them into perspective. But RSI, definitely not, because I've experimented with RSIs, I've experimented with the stochastics, I've experimented with them all, okay, over the number of years that I've been in this game. And let me tell you, they've only brought confusion and inconsistency. That's all they have caused for me, because for one, they're lagging, and for two, a lot of times they'll give you false signals, or they'll distract you. They'll throw you off from something that the price action is telling you anyway, and you'll say, oh, but I don't trust that price action because the RSI is showing me this, and it's nonsense. So there's no advantage to any of that information. None. Zero. So that's why less is more. Okay? My charts, I usually, for intraday, I'm looking at just price. Occasionally, I'll look at a moving average, right, in certain situations. But all moving averages are pretty much the same. They serve the same purpose. All right, so I hope that helps. AHS, okay, good to see you. David from Miami. I like Miami. I should say I like Miami Beach. I don't think I've actually been to the city of Miami. I've been to Miami Beach, but I guess who doesn't like Miami Beach? All right, Andre, how are you? Can you please check out DOT? Sure, let's take a look. DOT, USD. Let's see. Oh, look at that. So DOT, I've heard some talk about this. How much is this thing up? It's up 35 cents today. Okay. It's up to $53. It broke out over here. What was the price over here? 45. Okay, so it's got a little bit of a move that's taken place here. Now, I believe it was DOT that they're going to have some kind of news this month about something, about the upgrading something or blah, blah, blah. And it's supposed to, I heard, that's going to bring in a lot of demand. Well, look at this. So it broke out from this resistance area, right? That's good. Certainly confirms strength. Right? It consolidated over here and it broke out. Now, if you're not in DOT, there's no reason to buy this now. If people are buying it in anticipation of some event because they're going to do some kind of upgrade or some kind of whatever it is that they're doing, then it's buy the rumor, sell the news. This is a bad time to be buying it. This is a good time to be taking profits and taking advantage of all those people who don't know any better. That's how it works. Okay, so if you're interested in DOT, which again, this is a good one for the radar, obviously, you wait for a pullback, and the pullback would be here. This would be your higher probability area, the old resistance, which is around $43. That's not too far from it. It's about maybe $10, $10 pullback. That's within reason. Maybe you get a tighter pullback than that, but that would be the general area. That would be the place to look for the higher low after the breakout. That's a much higher probability than getting into something like this now. This is ridiculous. Okay, again, people that get sucked into this are people who don't know any better. They're probably on their Robinhood app. So yeah, wait for something like that. And again, like something like this, I would call for a swing trade. If I saw that and I had the time to send something like that out, this would be the place, right in this location right here. Again, it's always about probability of the location. And that's the location. Of course, price action would have to confirm. All right, so those are the levels for DOT. As far as where it is now, it can keep going slightly, but I would not buy this now, especially if you're going into buy the rumor, sell the news type of situation. All right, so good one for the radar. Thank you for asking. Oh, from Romania, Andre. Right. Okay. Thanks for stopping by, Andre. We have Schwartz. I guess Schwartz isn't here today. Oh, there he is. There he is. He's here. All right, I'm very popular in Romania, so I always have to, say hello to my Romanians. All right, hey, Travel. So, Travel, good question in the free chat. I answered it earlier about the pattern in Bitcoin, so I hope that helped. Andre, oh, good. My decision-making improved, and I'm fully invested in swing. Oh, Andre, cool. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, the ebook was written for that purpose, to point you in the right direction. Now, I'm working on something soon that I will be able to talk about, but I can't right now. But it's like an extension of the ebook, so maybe you'll find some value in that as well. More on that soon. But anyway, thank you for buying the ebook. Oh, Bart Guy sent me 100 coins. Thank you, Bart Guy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm not even on TradingView right now, and he sends me that. I appreciate that. It's very generous of you. Thank you. Okay, Jesse from Poughkeepsie. You don't even have to write it anymore. I know you're from there. Any thoughts on FTM? I'm in from lower prices. It's an ETH competitor. Okay. All right. So yeah. Okay. Another hype coin. Let's take a look. Let's see what's going on. So look, right now it's pulled back. This is what you want DOT to look like. Okay. Look at this. This is what you want. Look at the structure. Higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So this is a location of interest. All right, right in here, right in this area right here, where it's trying to find support. So you're at a good location. Now what you need here is price to confirm. You have a bullish pin bar developing right now. It needs to close and the high needs to get taken out. Now once you have that situation together, your risk will be defined by $2.60, right? That means if you buy the high of this candle, right, new candle opens, takes out this high, you get long. Okay, I'm giving you an example. Your risk will be defined by that 260. So what is the high here? 270? That is about 10 cents of risk. Is that right? Oh, I'm sorry. 240 is the low of the candle. I'm sorry. So you're taking about 30 cents of risk based on what this candle says. If you buy it and it goes to that stop, you take the loss, because if this structure is going to hold, it should not do something like that. Now, it's possible that it just gets noisy and then stops you out and reverses again. That's part of the game. You have to be prepared for that. But this is a nice setup developing. Now, keep in mind, this candle may not close like this. This candle may close on the low, which cancels out the whole idea. Okay, but if the candle closes like this and the next candle is green and takes out, like I said, then you have some possibility there. You're risking 30 cents, but what is the potential reward? Well, theoretically, this thing should go for the high of 340. At least it's within reason to at least test it over the next maybe few days or whatever. So if you're risking 30 cents to make, let's see, what you're buying this thing at 270. So to get to $3, this thing can go to, it's possible this thing could touch, what is the high there? 308. What's this high over here? 347. What's up? Wait, how is this 308? That's not 308. Oh, 348. Okay. So it's within reason to make 30 cents or greater on the next leg higher, okay, based on this structure. So yeah, I like it. Okay, as far as structure goes, that's a nice example of something that's bullish and something that should test its high. Now you compare this to some of those other charts that we looked at that don't look like this, right? More like the range bound type of charts, right? This is not range bound. That's a trend. So know that difference. Okay, thanks for asking, Jesse. I hope that helps. Hey, Farhat. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, Sean, rant mode on. I'm always on rant mode. Anthony, okay, cool. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. Okay, no problem. Uhuru, you stress it a lot not to short Bitcoin on swings, but Andrew mentioned it in the chat over that he would do it for day trades. Okay, all right, so day trades. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Now, day trading is a different story. Now, again, I always talk about not shorting Bitcoin. I'm always talking about swing trades. I'm usually not talking about day trades. If you want to day trade Bitcoin and you want to short Bitcoin, fine. Because as a day trader, you're not exposed to the larger magnitude of risk, or at least you should not be if you know what you're doing, right? You really have to respect your stops. You really have to take your small losses when you take one on the day trade time frame. Otherwise, you then expose yourself to the bigger picture risk. Also, as a day trader, your profit targets should not be out of proportion. Meaning, you know, on something like this, so let's pull up an hourly chart, right, on Bitcoin, because that would be more appropriate for judging like a day trade type of situation. First of all, the hourly is not exactly in a bearish trend here, okay? Why do I say that? You can say, oh, but look, lower highs. Right, but we have not, look at these supports, right? First of all, so this would not be a good idea to short right now. This would be, if anything, on a day trade time frame, this would be a long, okay, if anything, because it's going to those supports. If it breaks those supports, it's a different story. But right now, the support is there, right? So as a day trader, what are reasonable profit targets? Well, you want to look at the structure here, right? So as far as shorting goes, I'll use an example based on like this structure right here. But it's, you know, because when you're day trading, you can use smaller, even smaller time frames, all right? And it's possible to make a little money. Lower high, right? If the lower high gets established here, you're looking at like maybe a couple of 100 points, maybe 150, 200, maybe 300 points. If it can get to this low over here, what is that low? 63.55, and right now it's at 61. All right, so that's a good, there's a lot of room in there, right? If you're looking for 300 points, 400 points, something like that, that's it. If you think you're going to make 5,000 points, you're working on the wrong time frame. Does that make sense? So that's really like the thought process, and you have to take your losses and take your profits based on that magnitude. Otherwise, you get caught and you short the bottom of something, right? And this thing will run 5,000 points the wrong way on you. All right, so just something to keep in mind. So thanks for asking. Let me see what else I got here. Okay, just going through the chat. Let's see here. Schwartz, okay. Schwartz, I was talking about you earlier. I'm sure you heard. International man of mystery. Always finds time, even though he's a very busy man. Always finds time to spend with me in the chat here. Okay, Erhan, hey, good to see you. Sean, P-I-N-S, okay. Pins, Pinterest, let's take a look. So clearly Pinterest got beat up recently, right? Is the market closed yet? Okay, market's closed. I'm guessing they didn't have a good report when I see this gap. Now, Pinterest, I don't know if this price is right. What is that? 46.25 it says. So after hours, I don't know if that's just a bad price or whatever that is. But let's look at the level and let's look at the recent structure, right? Because that's really what carries all the weight here. Recently, I mean, this thing's been making lower highs. You have a lower high established here. Notice the vertical move into whatever that, I'm guessing that was a company report. Notice the vertical move. Everyone was piling in because they're going to have a good report. And look where it is now. You get the idea. That's why I always warn people about these events, because it's buy the rumor, sell the news. This is what it looks like after the fact. So as far as levels right now, Sean, okay, I'll give you, it's at a good level. I mean, it's at a more attractive level. You're certainly not buying resistances here, but there's no stability here yet, okay? Also, some red flags. You broke this support. That's not exactly good, right? I showed you what a bullish structure looks like. This is not exactly a bullish structure right now. I mean, going back a year, yeah, but recent months has been more range bound. So is this a range low? Well, it broke the range low. It should have maintained it. So I would wait for more stability on something like this. Let a double bottom develop. It may take another week or two. Let a double bottom develop or something, all right, before getting involved in something like this. Also, keep in mind here, let me get rid of that. Keep in mind, you have some previous support levels that date back over a year. So that's a possibility that it can reach. So something to keep in mind there. And another thing is, this is obviously it's a NASDAQ stock, right? Social media, blah, blah, blah. And I would think in light of NASDAQ making all-time highs and having the party that it's having, this thing should be doing better. So when the NASDAQ and S&P actually pull back, where is this thing going to go if it's fooling around these lows? So you have to keep that relative weakness in mind. All right. Obviously, it needs to process out its negative news or whatever. So we give it that time, but just keep in mind that relative weakness situation. This may be a better choice for more of like a position trade or an investment rather than a swing trade for those reasons. All right. So thanks for asking, Sean. Eligius, some insight about MO. Okay, let's take a look. Stock, same situation. Look at this. So I'm guessing, right? I see a gap. First thing I see, gap and bearish candle situation there, right? Into a range low area, and it broke the range low in one candle, and now it's trying to find some sort of buying activity there. Let's go back a bit and see what area that is. So you do have some support, right? It's trying to react to that support. Okay, fine. But here's the thing. You have a potential lower high developing here off of a pretty significant range low. This range low support is likely to act as a resistance now. And you have a lower high here. I would anticipate a lower low at this point. Now, I'm not saying that this thing is going to go into a full-blown bearish trend, but something like this is supposed to be, this company is supposed to be recession-proof and blah, 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 blah. I guess no one's smoking anymore, right? I guess smoking is not cool anymore. I don't know, but something is wrong with it, right? And S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, everything is on their highs. And this thing is here, like breaking supports. So relatively weak. There's a problem there. So something like this, I would wait, at least, if anything, wait for stability, right? Wait for a double bottom off of this support or something like that. Wait, or more conservative, wait for a change of structure, meaning double bottom forms and then it pushes higher and breaks some sort of resistance, right? That would be change of structure, because if a bearish trend is going to assert itself, resistance levels should hold, okay? And so far, that's all I see here. Resistance level, and so far, none of them are being broken. So just something to keep in mind. I would be a little more conservative with this one, all right? And might be good, again, for something like a position trade. Obviously, they're a big company. They've been around a long time. I mean, you know, take advantage of people with cigarettes, all that kind of stuff. And I know some people smoke. But anyway, so I wouldn't go on the fundamentals. Just the chart is telling us that there's something wrong. Let this thing stabilize and let it figure itself out there in light of a market that's going berserk right now. Okay, S&P, everything, the whole world, we're going to the moon because, you know, because everyone's got so much money. Everyone's going to be rich. All right. So thanks for asking about MO. Elizabeth, on server, we're throwing money left and right into SHIB, thinking, well, Elizabeth, I mean, that's funny, Elizabeth. I mean, I've been watching YouTube videos after YouTube videos pushing SHIB. SHIB is going to make you... I've seen a few videos with the word millionaire in the title, speaking specifically about SHIB. And again, and it was something, and I know I've ranted about this before, but one thing I just want to say, since Elizabeth brings this up again, is a true opportunity is not advertised on YouTube. Okay? I'm sorry I have to yell, but a true opportunity is something that no one knows about. It's not advertised on a public forum. Okay? Bitcoin, 10 years ago, or whatever, 2009, when it came out and the first block was mined or whatever, it wasn't on YouTube. YouTube existed back then. There were no videos about it on YouTube telling you you're going to be a millionaire. Okay? I remember in 2013 when I was talking to people when Bitcoin was just starting to get somewhat noticed. I was talking to people. I remember when Ethereum came out. And again, there were no videos on YouTube saying Ethereum is going to make you a millionaire. None of that nonsense. So just something to keep in mind. True opportunities are things that typically are under the radar, or things that maybe you have inside information on, like real inside information. Maybe you're the developer and you're coming out with the coin and blah, blah, blah. Sure, then you have inside information. You may be able to become a millionaire off of that. But when some fake comes onto YouTube pushing some coin, you know, just understand anything on YouTube or any public forum is not a real opportunity. Most of the time, it's fake, it's nonsense. Just understand that. All right, anyway, sorry I had to yell, but I get very excited about that. All right, let me see here. See what you started, Elizabeth? Okay, Peter, Fed start tapering bond purchases. Okay, good question. I love when people ask about bonds. Can you check? Sure. All right, so a couple of questions here. Let's start with the bond market. I forgot to look at that before. You know, I looked at the dollar, but I forgot to look at the bonds. Now look at this. This is a 10-year note, right? Interesting, very interesting, because we have the dollar going up at the same time. How is this possible? With the bonds going higher, dollar should be going lower. Maybe this is why gold was doing okay, because if bonds continue like this, then that actually implies a dollar weakening. So what's going on here? That's confusing, right? That is conflicting information. Now, let's look at some other things here. So with the bond market, we have to look at this recent structure, bearish, lower highs, lower lows. There's a higher low right here. So it's trying to change its tune. This is a good example of something trying to change its structure. All right, see that? Now, it'll be interesting. Now, the bonds could be funny this way, where they try to do one thing and then the broader trend reasserts itself. So this could just be noise. Now, let's take a look at the weekly chart, because something like bonds, you really need to see the bigger picture, because these things are relatively slow moving. Look where the bonds are rallying from, right? Double bottom. Interesting. So that location definitely makes sense as far as a rally trying to come together here. Now, why it's trying to come together, I don't know. I don't question it, but this is a high probability location. The thing is, does it follow through, or does it just come to another lower high and then turn around and make a lower low? That's going to depend on the Fed, right? Now, he's saying that they're tapering bond purchases, which means they're going to be buying, I guess they're going to be buying less and less bonds, right? That's what tapering means. So if they're buying less and less bonds, the bond market, why would the bond market go higher, right? So it doesn't make sense logically. So I can't question that. It is what it is. And as far as to answer your question about Bitcoin, here's what I think. If the bond market goes higher, right, if this can maintain itself and it changes its structure and goes higher, then that's basically implying lower interest rates, which, I mean, that's what, if the bonds are going that way, the dollar can't keep going the way it's going if bond prices are going to go higher, because the relationship is inverse, right? So let's go back to the daily chart here. So one is going to have to make up its mind, and then we'll see. Now, if the dollar breaks out higher, then this thing will probably turn the other way. If this thing breaks higher and keeps going, the dollar will probably turn the other way. And this better explains gold. But as far as Bitcoin goes, I look at it this way. If more and more companies these days have Bitcoin on their balance sheets, because everyone's cool now and they all have Bitcoin, right? A few years ago, they were saying it's a scam, and now they all have it on balance sheets. Bitcoin is going to be more tied to the stock market, in my opinion, because more and more companies are going to be, if Bitcoin is affected, meaning Bitcoin pulls back, blah, 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 then the stock market's going to be red. Or if the stock market's going to be red, then it may affect Bitcoin, because again, more and more companies are now exposed to it. So I don't know if that's a good thing when they get more tied together like that. So as far as bonds go, well, then we have to ask, how do bonds affect the company's situation? So if the Fed is tapering their bond purchases, okay, which means they're leading more toward selling bonds, which would be implied rising interest rates, right? That's what that means. Then that's generally not good for companies, right? Especially companies that borrow a lot of money. So if the stock market's going to feel pressure from that, then I would translate that into Bitcoin can feel pressure, because what if all these companies have to sell their Bitcoin because they have to pay some bill or something? I don't know. That's the logic that I would think, but you can't trade on that information, right? I don't even know enough about that to really tie in something. Well, if Bitcoin does this or if these companies do that, but I am noticing that now these days companies are saying that they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and for me that's like a relatively new thing, because now that locks in Bitcoin into more of a relationship with the S&P and the NASDAQ. If all these companies now have Bitcoin. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. And you want to see ADA, sure. So yeah, so I would expect that Bitcoin is probably going to behave more like the stock market or in line with the stock market, even though right now at this moment, stock market new highs, Bitcoin's not making new highs, right? So we'll have to see how that relationship plays out, or what kind of relationship establishes itself. Let's take a look at Cardano. So USDT, let's take a look. Now, here's another one. This coin has been so hyped. I saw quite a few videos on how Cardano is going to make you a millionaire. Cardano is going to 50x by next month, and all this other nonsense. Clearly, Cardano can't get out of its own way. Okay? Red candle today. So, look, couple of good things, couple of bad things. You have a consolidation. Hasn't broken out yet. A higher low consolidation. Okay. Right now, that's generally a bullish structure. So I'll give it that. you have this low over here, 180. I remember Sean in the other chat was saying that he has a stop at like 183 or something like that, and that makes a lot of sense. He's at the range low. If it breaks the range low, that's not something that this thing should do. Okay, it should not break the range low if this consolidation is going to stay intact. So that brings me to where we are now. You have a bearish inside bar. If this candle low is taken out tomorrow, you have a new sell signal. Does the sell signal break the range low? Well, that's going to be up to the market. But that's what you're going to have to watch out for. If you get stopped out on something like this, it's probably a good idea to take the loss, because this thing should not be breaking the range low, especially in light of all the nonsense that's going on and all the hype and all the euphoria. This thing should be making new highs. Okay, what happened to all their great scheduled events, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and everyone's going to build NFTs on their stupid blockchain and blah, 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 blah. Okay, blah, blah, nothing. This thing is red today. Why are they selling it? Who is selling Cardano? So anyway, that's the point, right? And that's what makes me so excited or passionate. It's a good word, passionate about all that hype that's out there. And then this is what you get stuck with. So as far as buying Cardano, hey, maybe this will turn into a double bottom situation, another one. So maybe you can get a buy signal out of this, right? Over the next few days, possible. If this thing can give you another bullish candle in that area, around that $2 or, maybe one high 180s area, something like that, that would be an attractive place to be buying it if it can give you the reversal. It's better than buying a high, okay? If you get stopped out after buying it at such a location, then that's a problem. It should not be doing that if this thing is going to stay range bound or generally strong. Does that make sense? And if you buy it in that situation, you're going to use the midpoint and the range high as your place for taking some profits off the table and measuring your risk potential. If you're risking like 30 cents, 40 cents, or 50 cents, maybe even $1 on Cardano, you need to be able to justify that risk, okay? If you're going to risk $1, but you're only going to make 50 cents, you're not going to get very far like that, okay? So thanks for asking. Good question. Quite curious to see stocks and okay, and the dollar up. Yeah, I know, Kai. When I see these unusual behaviors, I've just learned I don't ask why anymore. I just don't ask why. Markets are irrational. I just accept them, and then I just look. What is the next opportunity? Is what I ask, and where can I find it? Right? Where are my next support levels? Like Nasdaq. Nasdaq's ridiculous. Okay, fine. Be ridiculous, but where's the next support, right? That's what I'm interested in. And when we get there, maybe I'll have something to do. Otherwise, I'm not doing anything, right? Because I make the rules for my money. So Douglas, hey, thanks for stopping by. Port USD. Let's take a look. Port USD. And again, thank you everyone for hanging out with me today and listening to my rants and hearing me get all excited and yelling. All right. I hope I didn't mess up your speakers. All right, Port Finance. So here's first thing is first. General bullish structure, right? I mean, hype candle, hype situation. You see this nonsense with the hype? All right. Since then, it's corrected. Okay, fine, no problem. Now, this situation, this is what you want to see Cardano do. Something like this, right? Maybe it tests that low and then reverses. Now, this thing tried to break its low and it rejected that quickly. This is a failed low. That's what this is, a failed low. They're very tricky, all right? Now, the fact that you have this nice reversal attempt is good. What you want to see in this type of situation, how much is this thing? $5.68? Okay. You want to see a pullback, right? Perhaps you can get into this area right here, which is around, what is that, $5.14, around there, and maybe you can get a higher low off of that. That would be a place that you can measure risk from. You can use the range low for basically, what is that, $4? $3.76 is the low. So you're looking at maybe like $1.50 of risk in that type of situation. Now keep in mind, I don't know this thing's relationship with Bitcoin. I'm guessing it doesn't have much of a correlation since Bitcoin and Ethereum have made some pretty significant moves recently. And only the recent couple of days, this thing has tried to turn around. So that tells me that this thing is more likely to do its own thing. Okay, fine. Until it doesn't, but right now, that's what it's saying. So I would look for the higher low or possible double bottom, okay? You can get a double bottom. That would be a good place. Again, waiting for confirmation there. You don't want to just step in front of it. Or it's possible that you barely get a pullback at all, right? And you get like maybe a couple, like a little inside bar situation. And if you get something like that and it takes out the high of that inside bar, that would be a buy signal. But the question is, in those situations, how do you measure your risk? Do you use the low of the inside bar, or should you use the structural low? Because of the way this thing is basically structured right now, I think the more effective thing to do would be to use the range low to define your risk, not a single candle. Because this thing is not exactly, this thing has not resumed its broader trend if this broader trend is going to be, you know, intact. So just something to keep in mind there. Give it more room, which means you're going to have to probably use a broader or a wider profit target. But if this thing gets somewhere, if this thing starts to go, the middle of the range, the midpoint here, like this area right here, that's not a bad place to be considering. It's around $10, right? Good whole number on top of that. Something like that, maybe $9, maybe the high eights. So you should be able to justify your risk in that type of situation. All right, if you're going to risk $1 and you're making $3 or $4 or something like that, or more, that's a great reward risk if you can achieve that. All right, so that's what I would say about that. So not bad. Definitely just have to keep an eye on that. At least you're not buying the high. All right, thanks for asking. That's Port Finance. All right, let's see what else we got here. Just going through the chat. I learned once oil. I learned once oil is a Canarian. Yeah. So oil, right? I talked about that before. I guess that's what he's responding to. Yeah, oil can cause problems, right? But with all the geopolitical stuff on oil aside, right? We're just going to judge the chart here. I think oil might be setting up for a long, possibly. But if oil, like I said, continues and changes its structure, then yeah, that can cause problems of some kind. All right, AMP, Thomas, AMP. Let's see, AMP. We look at AMP. I think we looked at this earlier. Yeah, we looked at AMP. Okay, you may have asked about it. AMP USD. Yeah, I think we looked at it. What's the price here? Because I remember looking at this around. Yeah. We looked at this. All right. If you missed that, just go back to earlier in the stream. It was one of the first ones I answered. All right, Edward. Hey, Edward. NVDA. NVIDIA. Let's take a look. So, NVIDIA, market stock. I was going to say it's a market stock. So, this, I mean, it's a reflection of the NASDAQ. Look at this. Higher lows, higher highs, all over the place. This thing's up $31 today. $297. Ridiculous. Is this a bad company? No, they're not a bad company. They're obviously a leader in their industry. I'm not going to give them a hard time. But should you be buying NVIDIA now? I hope not. I hope you're not thinking about buying this. This is a great place to sell. Lock in profits if you have some, okay? You want to wait for a pullback. And if this pulls back, the whole NASDAQ is probably going to be pulling back too. So where do you buy on this thing, right? Well, the first structural level that we have here is this, which is hard to believe that it'll pull back that far. 231.25. Now that's based on this old resistance, right, which should act as a new support. But it may not pull back that far, at least not for the next month or so, because again, we are in Santa rally mode and everyone's buying NVIDIA chips, I guess, and their graphics cards and mining Bitcoin with it or whatever. Okay, I'm just exaggerating, but you get the idea. So if it's not going to pull back that much, right, you have a couple of things to consider. You can look for a tighter pullback, like something like this would be within reason, as long as the broader trend is staying intact, meaning the NASDAQ and S&P are not pulling back dramatically. Because again, this thing is basically a leader, like in the NASDAQ. So if the NASDAQ gets really red, this thing will probably feel the pain. So let's see here. That's around 265. So keep an eye on that level. Put that in your notes, right? That 265 area is one area to consider. Now, the other more aggressive scenario for something like this, and again, I'll explain why it's aggressive, is you wait for an inside bar, okay? An inside bar typically can act as a continuation pattern if this momentum is going to continue. Now look, I'll just give you an example. Just on this chart here, look, you have like an inside bar situation right in there, right? Continuation pattern. They're aggressive because you could be buying the top. You could be buying right into that top if it doesn't go much further. So if you take such a situation, you take such a trade where you get the inside bar and it closes and the next candle takes out the high, it looks like that, then you're going to have to take pretty tight risk, meaning you're going to use the low of this candle, the inside bar, as a place to define risk, which means your chances of getting stopped out are pretty good. So that's why it's aggressive. You have to accept that risk. Now, if it works out, right, you buy it and it has another leg higher because, you know, everything's going crazy right now, okay, then you got a piece of it. But here's the thing. You have to keep, I would say it would be wise to keep your mindset short-term oriented. These are not investing levels. Even though this is a good stock to invest in, I won't take that away from it, but these are not good levels. All right, here, let me just show you real quick. Let's take a look at a weekly chart. Look at this. Look at that. That's ridiculous. You got to be smoking some funny stuff to be buying, investing at these levels. So my point is, if you can take a swing trade and you risk, let's just say on something like Nvidia, I mean, if this thing's moving, what's the average movement on this thing? I'm going to guess it's probably like around, let's see, the high to the low, 8 points. So I guess maybe 5 to 8 points is like a reasonable movement for something like this. If you risk 10 points, you need to make at least 10 points, 15, 20 points. If you can get better than 1-to-1 on such a trade, take the money. Don't sit there and think that this thing's going to run another 100 points, okay, without pulling back and having to get caught in that pullback. That's the mindset you have to have. That's the aggressive waiting for trying to play the trend continuation on a swing trade time frame. It's hard to do, and you have to babysit. These type of stocks in this type of situation are really more appropriate for a day trade type strategy because you're not exposed to this magnitude of risk, which people are clearly ignoring right now. Okay, so I hope that answers your question about Nvidia. Thanks for asking. Hey, Douglas, Port. Okay, so I got Port, got it, right? I believe that's the same thing. Let's see. Port USDT should be the same. Yeah, same thing. Okay. Adrian, hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm in it's Switzerland. I can't even pronounce that first word. Switzerland. Well, thanks for stopping by. Farhat, XRP. Do you think the court case is depressing the price? Yeah, I know there's been drama about, I've heard stuff about court cases, and I don't know, that's not a very depressed, doesn't look like a very depressed price to me. Maybe today it's a little depressed, but for the most part here, there's no depression going on. Look at this. So you have a higher low established right there. You're near the range high. So you have a bearish pin bar situation developing off the range high. Now, let me bring up something here because I talk a lot about this. When we see coins breaking out, like I think, let me just pull up AVAX here for a second because AVAX was like the big one yesterday. All right, look at, we'll talk about this one here in a second. All right, so XRP, when you have this breakout attempt, all right, and I say this all the time, if you want to take the breakout attempt, go for it, but you must have your risk defined, okay? And usually these breakout attempts have more risk built into them, so you have to be willing to take more risk. Number two, if they fail right away, which is what this is doing, and you get a bearish pin bar, that is not momentum follow through. So this requires adjustment. If this closes like this and takes out the low, then yeah, it may pull back to the midpoint or the low point of the range, okay? So maybe the court case can be a catalyst for such a scenario. The point is, I wouldn't use the court case to guide my decision making. Look at the levels, because the levels would have warned you before it even got there that this is a problematic area, right? Just based on this back here, it's problematic. Right? Bitcoin had a similar situation going on too. So just something to keep in mind there. All right. Don't ever follow, but when you listen to things like court cases and this and that, basically you're relying on logic, right? Oh, court case bad, price bad. But you don't go by that. You're better off letting the chart tell you what to think in advance, or at least be prepared for particular scenarios. All right. So I hope that answers your question. Now, let me just talk about AVAX real quick. All right, AVAX, because again, I saw some hype about this one, and you're going to be a millionaire if you buy some AVAX and blah blah blah. Now, look what's going on here. This is not a bad-looking chart in general. Why? Got higher lows and higher highs all over the place. Look at this higher low. Very nice if you had bought this breakout, but look at what's happening at the moment. This is where the retail trader fails. This is a failed high area. So if momentum is going to fail, or if you're going to get a fake out, this area would be the place for it to happen. Right now, you have a bearish pin bar developing. So anyone that just bought this thing because they watched a YouTube video that said they were going to be a millionaire, they've just exposed themselves to the potential top. This is a failed high. This calls for adjustment. So if you had just bought this thing, your stop should be raised to like 76.45, and you should be prepared to take a loss, a small loss. Otherwise, you're exposed to all of this risk that it's possible that this thing can test the range low. All right, which is what? It's $55. Why would you want to be exposed to all that? You're better off taking the loss while it's smaller. If it finds support somewhere along the way, maybe the middle of the range, maybe slightly lower, at least you could try getting back in at a better price with a better probability. But that's what I mean about these breakouts and adjusting. You have to babysit that, okay? And you have to be prepared to take that adjustment. Where the retail trader goes wrong is they will go into hope mode. They'll say, well, it's not too bad. It's still green. My Robinhood platform said it's still green, and the fake guru said just buy more. Okay, but the risk is so high, and if everyone that just bought it bangs it out, you're stuck in this thing, okay? That's what I mean. All right, anyway, enough of that rant. Let me see what else I got here. All right, okay, no problem, Bart. Janet Jr., hey, okay, on a previous resistance area after a series of higher highs. Although going for long in that area seems questionable, the current context, right, so Janet, like I was saying, with something like Bitcoin, Bitcoin, it's giving people a hard time, right, in this resistance area, which is fine. It's random. This is random. No problem. That's what consolidations do, right? They unfold in a random way. So we can't really make judgments on what's going on here at the moment, right? Not on the swing trade time frame. That's why, like I was telling Travel Berlin, because of the question that he asked about the bearish pattern that may be developing here, nothing on the bigger picture has changed, okay? So that means when we get to a support level, I'm interested in a long, right? My rules, nothing has changed, and my rules tell me what I should think, and that's what I think. I don't change my rules or start reacting just because I get a little red candle in the middle of nowhere here at a resistance, okay? On other time frames, that could be more meaningful, but on my time frame, it means nothing. It's just noise, and noise in an area where noise is very likely. All right, so thanks for mentioning. Okay, Bart, what do you think of band? Okay, sure, I'll take a look here. Got a few more minutes. Let's see how I'm doing with time. Okay, not too bad. Got a few more minutes if you want to hang out a little bit more here. And again, well, the YouTube algorithm doesn't really work for me very well with these things, and I've figured out why. So it doesn't matter if you press like or not, or I don't even, the watch time that you guys doesn't even count, the watch time, right? The watch time only counts after I turn the stream off, and then people have to watch after that. Thanks a lot, YouTube. Anyway, but I'm helping people here. That's all that matters. So band, let's take a look. Band USDT. So look at this, right? Another example of failed high, okay? Just the other day, whatever, all these altcoins were going green. And I wrote something in the chat room, in our chat room. I said, a lot of these altcoins, there's all this hype in them, right? I keep reading more and more YouTube millionaire videos. I keep seeing the titles. Meanwhile, many of these coins are not pushing resistance levels. So here you go. The resistance level is all in this area right here, okay? And you tested it, okay, fine. Everything's looking good, and now you get this candle. So the resistance is being rejected, and Bitcoin's pulling back at the same time. What a surprise! So in this situation, you got a red inside bar. If the candle closes like this, and the next candle is taken, the low of this candle is taken out, you have a sell signal at that time.
off of a resistance area, which can actually be a double top resistance. So if you just got long band, that would call for an adjustment, taking a small loss, taking a small gain if you have one, getting out, because this is not momentum continuation. Now, the market may reverse again tomorrow, right? Maybe you get another green candle that does something like that. That's possible. But does that really change the situation at all? You're still in a resistance area here. So that's why buying in these areas is so tough. And that's why I'd rather, if you want probability to be in your favor, you wait for support levels. And right now on band, that's around $8, right? You have a support at $8, this area right here. That's one. And you have supports like in this area here, right? What is that? That's around, what is this low here? 7.5, 750, around there. So those are your higher probability levels. So what do? When you watch my stream, take note of those levels. Put them like in your notebook or something, or record them on your chart so that if price gets there, you now have an area of interest where you should be looking for some sort of price confirmation. You can measure risk, and probability is more likely to be in your favor if you're going long, rather than reacting to these buy signals that keep showing up in the middle of a resistance area. And obviously dependent on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is having a hard time. And what are these things going to do? They're going to break their resistances if there's some specific hype on them, maybe if there's some specific piece of news, but a chart's not going to help you with that. Okay, so that's an example of that as well. Just like that AVAX chart I just showed you. Okay, so I hope by now, as many times as I've ranted here, that you know that you should not be following news or listening to people. The chart can give you enough information if you just trust the chart and understand what is going on around these levels, and then letting price prove itself to you, because that's basically a reflection of order flow, and order flow is what drives the market. Okay, so MKR USDT, let's take a look. MKR USDT. All right, another one. Oh, so this is Polygon, isn't it? Is this Polygon? So no, it's not. I'm thinking of this. Is this Matic? Or no, I'm thinking of Matic. I'm sorry. I can't even get my garbage coin right. Sorry about that. Okay, so Maker. So now look at this thing. Clearly, you see what I mean with this nonsense? See what I mean? Breakout, nice, red candle. So this is what you don't want to see. So let's look at the levels. All right. Before I get into another rant, let's just look at the levels. Let's be professional about this. So these are your levels right here, and obviously price reacted to a resistance level. Obviously, there were people that were very happy to sell in this area right here. They were very happy. Look at that pin bar. Very happy to unload to people who don't know any better. Okay, so now you're pulling back off of that, right? I hope you didn't buy into that pin bar. Bearish inside bar. If the low of this inside bar is taken out, you have a sell signal. So what do? Wait for support. In this situation, now what I don't like about this, we looked at some other coins that had nice structures. This doesn't have such a nice structure. This is more of a consolidation, which means you want to wait for support, or even better, maybe you wait for some stability around a range low area right there. That's probably a much more reasonable place to be looking for a long, whether it's a swing trade or if you're thinking longer time frame than that. Now, if this one problem, when something goes vertical like this, if it gives it all back, then a lot of times you get people that get pushed out, they get leveraged out, and it causes even more selling, and you could possibly take out the support level. So you have to watch out for that. That's not something that you can predict. It's something that the market needs to prove or not prove, right? So based on this structure, you could look for the higher low around support. You could look for a test of the bottom, okay? But if it clears that bottom, I would step away from it. All right, and I'm guessing, since this is sort of reacting to that Bitcoin situation, I'm guessing that if the whole sector is going back into some sort of corrective mode, these things are going to be in that mode too, okay? So thanks for asking. I hope that helps. Okay. Yeah, Jose, Miami Beach. I like Miami Beach. Okay, Mr. Banian, hey, how you doing? I am in IOTX, but took 2 small profits. Okay, do you think it can go back higher? They proved utility. Good news. Okay, all right, let's take a look. IoT. Now, first of all, Mr. Banian, don't feel bad. Oh, oh man. All right, look, don't feel bad about taking profits too early, first of all. Okay, never feel bad. You took profits. You're never going to get the top. This is a lottery ticket, okay? I mean, these are lottery tickets. So the only way to participate in something like this is it's always wise to take something off the table, all right? And then you try to let some run. And that's what will allow you to participate in something like this. Now, what is this thing at? 33 cents? It's up 54%. All right, so obviously news driven. Look where it was before that, right? It was basically in this garbage zone, and obviously someone was accumulating it, right, over all this time because someone knew something, and now you get this. So there's nothing you can do here. Do you think it can go high? Do you think it can go back higher? Well, you need to wait for this thing to stabilize. You have these, look at this pin bar. So a lot of people obviously exited. They took their money off the table. You're never going to get the top. So you're not in it, no problem. In a situation like this, you have to look at proportional levels. The first place, a good place just right off the bat to look is 50%. Just look there because there's no other, we have no other price history. We have no other structure to go by here. So look for that and see if price can get there and see if price can give you some sort of price structure there. Maybe you can get a higher low, right? Basically a single candle reversal. Maybe you can get a double bottom, and maybe that's a good place to give it a try. That's really the only thing you could do in a situation like this. Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble because, you know, it's possible that if this is just pure hype or whatever, I mean, you're saying they proved utility, whatever, but maybe that's nonsense, right? Maybe this whole thing gives it back. Maybe you get a big red candle. How many times have we seen that with these things, right? So that's why be patient with this. If they're true, if they've truly proven their utility, then price will pull back to some point. It will stabilize, and then it should continue for another leg higher if it's going to be a real coin and they're going to have a nice broad bullish structure. So don't feel bad, okay? Just it's a good look, great one for the radar. We should all be paying attention to this thing now, IOTX. I think you brought this up. Someone had brought this up not too long ago because I remember the symbol. But you can't judge a chart on this, right? There's nothing. If we look at just this alone, right, this price action alone, just this, there's nothing on this chart that's going to tell you that this is coming. There's nothing on the chart. You have to be an insider, okay? You have to be in the chat room where they started hyping it or whatever the news is. That's the only way you're going to get involved in this. Or maybe you're the developer of it, right? That's it. So just wait for this. Let the structure mature and look for the higher low. And then there may be something there to do. So thanks for asking about IOTX, and thanks for pointing it out, because I know it was probably you that mentioned it, and it's too bad that it had not given any kind of clear signal earlier. You know, that's just something you had to know about. I mean, we can argue going back that, oh, there was a higher low and this and that, okay, whatever, but even higher low or no higher low, not that structure will not predict this type of reaction because of some news that came out. Okay, so thanks for asking about IOTX. Adrian, what about hot? Okay, we'll take a look. Okay, Schwartz, I made 6K on AR, buying, selling $10. Oh, nice, Schwartz, nice. International man of mystery, making some money. All right, let's see what we got here. So I remember when this one used to be all big and bad, right? Hyping this thing here, hot. So it's made some progress, higher lows. Okay, look, higher low, higher high. Okay, right, you have that. Current candle red. So there's nothing to do here. If you're in this would be a good idea to take money off the table. If you're not in this, you should wait for a support, okay? Like here, that's your support right now. You have a support there and you have one over here. Those are your support levels. It's an old resistance dating back to this over here. You see that? So this is your area. If price can retest that area, you have a potential opportunity. I'm guessing a lot of coins are going to look similar to this, right? And if you get a bullish reversal in this area, you get price action confirmation, that would be your place to take a chance. Right here, you know, there's no reason to buy this. There's only reason to take profits if you have some. If the low of this current candle is taken out, you have a sell signal. Okay, just something to keep in mind. Also, I just showed you the probability, the higher probability location. It's possible that it gives you a tighter higher low, but you're going to have to play that more aggressively, like I explained before with that other coin that we were looking at. I forget the symbol. Anyway, so thanks for asking. Okay, Monica, hey, good to see you from Montreal, Switzerland. Oh, we got some Switzerland people. Hey, I'm getting popular in Switzerland. Schwartz probably went over to Switzerland and he probably showed some people my videos and stuff. Maybe that's how they found out about me. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Monica. Can you please take a look into Solana? Sure. Another hype coin. Let's take a look. So, oh, look at that. All right, so it made some higher highs. All right, so some of those YouTube videos are right. It's definitely making millionaires here. I'm joking. So again, like some of these other ones on the highs, okay, like some of the other ones we looked at, you can't do anything with this here but take profits if you have some, all right? Great structure in general. Higher lows, higher highs. This is what a strong market does. It produces a higher low followed by a higher high. But if you're not in from the higher low, if you're not in from here, there's no reason to be buying here because all you're doing is taking the risk off of other people's hands. So look for supports. Right now, your old resistance right here is your support, 218.93. This thing is fooling around at 244, 245. So that 218, you could round that to maybe 215, maybe even 200. What is this low over here? Let's see, is that 200? What a move. 181 is the low, okay? So this entire area right here, that would be an area of interest if you can get some sort of reversal pattern there. There's a lot of reasons for it to try to reverse there. So that's where your reward risk is better and your probability is better, rather than trying to buy this thing thinking it's going to double from here. I'm sure you'll find plenty of videos that will tell you that it will double from here, but this is potentially the top, right? This is clearly not a support. It's clearly not a bottom. Your supports are like in these areas, okay? That's a support. You have a support like in there. So those are the prices you want to keep an eye on. Again, this is another good one for the radar if you're playing this game. You know, this one has been hyped a lot recently. So at the same time, if you're watching this, right, I just want to put this out there now. If you're watching this and it goes to those supports, don't just step in front of it. Let it confirm, because if it breaks those supports, that's not something it should do. It should hold one of them, right? So if it starts breaking, step aside and also watch some of the other similar altcoins, because if they're all breaking supports, that means the party's probably over. Just keep that in mind, all right? And don't get overexposed with these things, because they all basically, the group of them will do similar things. And when one breaks, they're all probably breaking, all right? So just keep that in mind, all right? Farhat, okay, no problem. Okay, cool, no problem. Monica, maybe you have time to look at mRNA. Sure, I'll take a look. Okay, KDA, what is a good level? Okay, Kim, hey Kim, good to see you. What the hell is IOTX? And why have other prices in Binance? I don't know, Kim. Maybe if you Google IOTX, you find out more about whatever it is exactly that they do. There is institutional money behind Solana in that regard. Oh, in that regard, it's different to SHIB. Okay, well that's a good point, Kai, because SHIB is just complete nonsense, right? SHIB is just a meme coin. I guess this one is not. So, okay, Bart, I had 60 days staking on Solana from some of the, okay, I was really shocked at the results. Okay, all right, that's cool. Hey, so some of these things work out as long as you're taking the money and as long as you're not having delusional thoughts of being a millionaire just because someone on YouTube told you that this thing is going to 1000x by next week, okay? That's all I'm warning out with those. But there are opportunities here, sure. Just trade them and manage your risk in a wise way, in a smart way. Don't be delusional like the rest of the herd. All right, let me take a look at mRNA, and I'm going to wrap this up here in a couple of minutes, but I got most of the questions. Yeah, a couple more minutes. Okay, mRNA. Okay, interesting. So this is, look at the general trend on this thing, right? General trend, clearly bullish. Recent price action has been corrective, okay? Lower high, lower high. It's been corrective. Obviously, they had some kind of report. I guess maybe the company report. and gap, okay? Bearish gap, and you're sitting at support. Don't touch this thing right now. It's at a good location, I agree, yes, right? Good location, support, but not after a gap, especially if that's a company report. You're likely to get some more bearish momentum. So step aside, let this thing find stability, right? Is this chart in general bad? No, but it needs stability. So if you can get in this area right here, what price is this? 283, right? Is that right? 283, it's basically 284. This one would be a great one for the radar as far as swing trades go. Watch for a double bottom to develop in this area. Okay, like it pulls back a little lower, pops up a bit, goes into this gap, right? Price retests this gap area. The gap area acts as a resistance, and then it pulls back and tests this 280 area again, followed by like a bullish pin bar. Something like that would be a good swing trade opportunity because it's giving you basically a double bottom off of a corrective, like this is not consolidation, it's just more of a corrective move, right? But you're getting like the range low of it, and you have plenty of potential, even if it tests 300 again, which is possible. That's a nice little move right there if you're buying this thing somewhere in this region after it confirms with, you know, the right price action. Does that make sense? So it's not bad, it's just a little early. I would definitely have this one on the radar for a potential swing trade, and it may take a week or something like that for this thing to unfold in the way I just described. All right, but if it does not produce what I just described, and for whatever reason you continue to get lower and lower candles, just stay away from it until it finds some sort of stability and changes its structure. Now, this is not a market stock, so even though the S&P and NASDAQ are all-time highs, you know, this thing doesn't have to be at all-time highs because something like this is driven by its own specific news, right? That's the story with most of these type of stocks, whether they're, you know, biotech, blah, 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 that kind of thing, pharmaceutical, whatever. All right, so thanks for asking about that. Good question. All right, so I'll take a look at KDA and I'll wrap this up. So KDA, USDT. Oh, another one. Look at these. Is this, wow, nice little move there. So if you have something like this, again, let me pose the question to you. What do you think you should do here? Okay, now his question is good level to buy. Well, what do you think you should do here? I'm just the interactive portion here of my stream. What do you think you should do here without me having to tell you? What do you think you should have to do? All right, I'll give you guys some time to answer that question while I draw levels on the chart here. Okay, but what do you think you should do in this blue box? What do you think you should do? Do you think you should buy or sell here? Buy or sell in the blue box? Who can tell me? Buy or sell? So while you guys are answering that, to answer your question about buying this thing, I'm sitting out unless it comes back to 3 to 5. Okay, Farhat, good answer. Well, $3. That's a little steep. I mean, that's extremely conservative, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. It just may never get there. Here's the thing, or it may take a while, it may take a long time to get there. So Kai says sell, do nothing at the blue box. Right. So if anything, this is right, take profit, Bart. Right. Sell, take profit, because you're on these highs. And great place to get out. Great place to reduce risk or distribute risk. Not a good place to be putting more on. So you guys got it. You guys have been watching my streams long enough. Right? Now, breakout strategy is a valid strategy. Some people probably took the breakout. And if you have to be really cognizant of this thing. You have to babysit this thing because this thing can turn, as I showed you with a few other charts, right? You get the bearish pin bars all over the place on these other charts. So if this thing gives you the bearish pin bar tomorrow, you know, you got to be prepared to get out of this thing. So Kim says short. Well, Kim, you're extremely aggressive. This is not, you don't want to short these things, or at least I don't short these things because these things are completely irrational and ridiculous, right? And they can really hurt you on the short side. So I would stick with the trend. You know, if you're super aggressive and you want to try something like that, maybe you're joking, I don't know. But I certainly wouldn't short something that looks like this, but I wouldn't buy it either, right? Wait for the supports. So Farhat, a reasonable area to consider if it gets there and gives you confirmation, would be this consolidation area right here, which is around, what, $6.50, something like that. I mean, this thing's fooling around at $9 right now. So if this thing gives you that opportunity around 6.5, maybe slightly lower, right, in that area right there, those would be great locations for a possible new long. Now keep in mind, it looks like a lot of these, you know, we looked at a bunch of coins today that look similar to this, okay, and they're all pushing these highs, and everyone's going to be a millionaire tomorrow and all that other stuff. But as you know, these things will cycle, and it's very possible that you will have an opportunity, possibly over the next few months, in areas like this. Because if this thing goes there, most likely many coins, right, in general, will be pulling back in a similar way. Because when everyone is super optimistic and super euphoric like they are right now, because everyone is going to be a millionaire, that's usually a sign of a top in general. It may not be the top today or tomorrow, but in a couple of months, these things are probably going to be lower, not higher. I can tell you back from, you know, and we see this cycle over and over again. This is nothing new. Back in 2017, when Bitcoin was pushing 20K for the first time, right? It was just trying to push 20K. Everyone was saying that Bitcoin was going to go to 30 or 40K and blah, blah, blah. Sure, they were eventually right, but Bitcoin went to 3K first, okay? So, you know, and it took about a year and a half or 2 years for Bitcoin to make that turn. You had to sit there, if you bought it at 20K, you had to sit in that thing and watch it go to 3K. So my point is this, all this hype and all this euphoria, take it as a contrarian sign. You know, I sit here and I yell about it, and I talk about how ridiculous it is, but you can use that information to your advantage. Because when the whole world is thinking the same thing, you don't have to do the opposite, okay? You don't have to sit there and start shorting everything because, you know, you want to do the opposite of everyone else. No, but you want to think on the other side of that. You want to think about what you can't see. I talk about that all the time. Many of these, understand these videos from the producer's perspective. I'm going to tell you this, right? And then I'm going to wrap this up. But again, I appreciate everyone hanging out with me. So think about these YouTube videos from the perspective of the producer. You may say, well, yeah, I watch some of these videos, but I don't give the guy any money. I don't click on any of his stupid links, right? So I don't support him. But you actually, you do. They make these videos because they need the attention, and YouTube will reward them for the amount of time being watched. Okay, so if you have a lot of watch time, that's beneficial to these producers, whether you're clicking on their affiliate links or not, right? So what does that do? That puts the algorithm in their favor, and it proliferates more of their videos, right? So more of their videos are being shown more because they're getting a lot of watch time. That's how these people are being supported, okay? Now, they are a reflection of the herd. Obviously, if there's a lot of interest in these videos and a lot of people are watching, there's a lot of people invested. And when you see a video that says you're going to be a millionaire and it has 100,000 views on it, that means something, okay? That tells you something about the population that's involved in these things. And they like to be lied to. It's the herd mentality. So use this to your advantage. Understand that in times like this is where you want to distribute risk, okay? If you took the risk earlier when no one was interested, when these things looked like garbage, or you had some news, whatever it was, and you got involved, this is your time to take something off the table. Maybe you don't want to take it all off the table, and that's okay too. But take something off the table. That's all you can do in these times. And wait for the bottom of the next cycle. It's not easy to do. You may have to wait 6 months, okay, to get a true cycle bottom. It takes a while because there's a lot of hype, and there's so much momentum, and there's so much nonsense, and we're in the holiday season and blah, blah, blah. It takes a lot of bearish catalysts and a lot of things to really knock the wind out of the perception, because that's what's driving this. And you have all these reports, and this is an NFT that, and they're going to come out with this, and all this craziness. And this craziness was going on back in 2017 as well. Blockchain is the future. Companies are obsolete. All this crazy talk, right? Institutions are going to be buying the new futures contract, and Bitcoin's going to be at 100,000 by next week, right? Because of the futures contract. No, not quite. So just keep that in mind.
if we're making all-time highs like the NASDAQ and S&P and all that other stuff, those are not lows. Those are not support levels. That's not a bottom of any kind. So that's a time to shy away from risk, distribute risk, take profits. Not a time to put on more risk. All right, so that's the idea that I want to leave you with. Keep in mind, playing this game of market timing is more of a mindset than anything else. And if you want to begin on the right mindset, you must, everything that you have right now, all your preconceived notions, all of your, intuitive thoughts and all these things that you think you know, leave them aside and think in more of a defensive way. Think defensive. We're all here to make money, yes. But if you try to make money or you're chasing opportunities, you will not make money. You'll make money randomly, right? And which means you're part of the herd. You don't want to be part of the herd. You want to think ahead of the herd. And that's what you have to do. You cannot go by what you see. You cannot react to what you see. You must think ahead and wait for the market to come to you. That's more defensive. And on top of all that, put, direction aside, because it's hard to time markets because of the random nature. You must focus on risk only, okay? If you can just keep your mindset defensive and risk only, the rewards will come on their own because the market will pay you, on its own, and there will be opportunities that you will participate in, okay, and that type of stuff. But if you're protecting your capital and you're only focused on that, well, when things get hard or things get crazy or whatever, you'll be not only more cognizant of your risk, but you will not put yourself at the mercy of the market. That's what wipes a lot of people out, and they don't realize they're doing it. And that bad habit begins with being part of the herd mentality, chasing profits, letting greed rule your decision making, being emotional, not having a plan of any kind, not having any structure, going on hunches, watching news, looking, embracing the illusion of certainty, which, all these fake gurus push and all that kind of stuff. Step away from all that. Most retail traders don't make money because they consume bad information and then they act on it or they react to it, right? All you have to do is, all the information that we need to make an informed decision is on a chart. Unless you're an insider, that's a different story. But I'm talking to people that are not insiders. I'm not an insider. I don't have any inside information. I have to rely on information that I can pull from a chart. Okay, and what I want is the market to align in such a way that probabilities are more favorable. Because again, even if I get a high probability setup, it doesn't mean it's going to work out. It's still a probability. But it's the risk that keeps me out of trouble. Okay, it's keeping control of my risk. Because when you don't use a stop and all that other stuff and you take positions that are too big, you know where that goes. All right, anyway, so I'm going to leave you with that. I got to stop talking now because I'll just keep talking and talking and talking. My voice is running out. Look, everyone left the stream. All right, so, all right, everyone. So I want to thank you all. Okay, from Bart from Uruguay. ¿Cómo estás? Okay, no problem. David. Okay, cool. Well, thanks, David. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to do it with these streams. I know that much. Okay, Douglas. Okay, I need more clickbait titles. No, Douglas, I don't want to bait people, but I do know what I have to do. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, no, I understand, you guys. No, I've been doing my homework, so I know what's going on. I just do these streams anyway, even though I know I'm not going to grow these streams this way. I just do them because, I have all of you and you all come to the same stream. So it's like, I'm going to do these until I have my other solutions figured out. Anyway, okay, you should invest on some sort of ads here on YouTube. Right, so I can go on some, you see some of these people, they like yell at you on the ad. You ever see some of those? Like, I've seen some ads where they basically like yell at you. All right, anyway. All right, I'm losing my voice here. Okay, no problem, Kai, thank you. All right, you guys, so again, thank you all for sticking it out with me. I hope you all got something out of this. Great questions, great participation. I always love seeing everyone and speaking to people from all different parts of the world. All right, so again, if you want to check out Greenbridge Investing, we have the links in the descriptive portion, right? We have the 7-day free trial and, we have chat room and all that stuff, so you can check that out. Otherwise, Wherever you are in the world, if it's daytime or evening, wherever you are, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very, very much for watching.